red flags are our things that we want to just be a bit mindful of when proceeding with working or adopting or getting your new forever pug, because these are some of the things we've learnt through experience and also just through our knowledge in the industry about how you can just get a bit more than you expected. Some of the red flags that I got was a Shar-Pei Staffy that had a few more behavior problems when I was 21 that led me to being a dog trainer. And some of the green lights are the guiding lights of what we like to see in these practices and organizations, that they are pulling up their socks and doing the work and improving their practices. Neither red flags or green lights, deal breakers or deal makers. They're just really to guide your values. I'm really big on we're all learning and doing our best with the knowledge we have. So it's to guide your values and guide the values of the organizations that you're part of.
Hello, humans and puggies. Welcome to the Pug Life Show, brought to you by Pug Parties, because your pug deserves to be the best dressed at the party. And you can check out their pug-fitting, harness and toilet-friendly Pugs and Stripes collection at pugparties.com. I'm your host, Donna, and with me are my puggy co-hosts, Rosie and Kenji, with their rescue foster brother, Buster. So today on the Pug Life Show PUGCAST, we're diving into one of the most important journeys a pawrent can take, finding their forever pug love through a rescue, shelter or pound. But how do you know when it's the right fit? So with the help of force-free trainers Jess and Alex, we'll be sniffing out the red flags to watch for and the green lights that tell you you're on the right track. From the legal requirements rescues must comply with, to the health history you should have access to the environment your pug is being cared for in, and even the adoption process you'll go through before bringing that bundle of Snorts home, we've got you covered. If you're thinking about adopting or just want to be better informed, this is an episode you won't want to miss. But before we zoom in, don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter. You'll find a link in the show notes so you can be the first to know when the next episode lands, and you can get access to lots more fantastic goodies. Hello, Alex and Jess. I actually think this is probably the first double guest podcast I've had in ages. I actually think last year was the last time I did. So thank you very much for you both taking out some valuable time out of your day. I know you both are super busy to talk about something that's actually really important, and that is how to recognize the good, the bad and the ugly when you're going to a rescue to adopt a forever fur child. To be referred to as pug, even though obviously everything can be used for any dog in any rescue anywhere in Australia.
Thank you so much. We're really excited to be here.
Thank you so much. I'm Alex, and Jess was speaking before. I'm Dig Dog Training, and I'm based in country Victoria. I came through the rescue system to become a dog trainer. And there is a lot of red flags and green flags that we'll discuss today.
And Jess, do you want a quick background for yourself?
Yeah, my name is Jess, and I am one of the co-owners of Howling Success Dog Training and Behaviour on the northern beaches of Sydney. And I also got my start working with dogs and animals by working in a rescue shelter. I spent 5 years there working full-time hours, I would say, and it really coloured my experience and desire to become a dog trainer. So I'm really excited to share some of that information with you guys.
Awesome. Thank you. Now, probably we need to start out the conversation, and I will pick and choose between both of you ladies. So I'll say, Jess, what is the difference between a rescue, a shelter and a pound? We probably need to at least give that little bit of boundary so that people understand, although we might be talking about it in general, there are actually some differences.
Yeah, so generally when I'm looking at the pounds, they're usually run by government organizations, or they're an official avenue, to put it blunt or politely. Whereas rescues and shelters are more often privately run. They're something that someone's done off their own back, which is just absolutely incredible. And we should be looking to see that they are registered charities and all those sorts of things, rather than what we would call a mom and pop kind of organization.
Awesome. So, Alex, you guys, I first met you online digitally through the PPGA. both of you did this great webinar a few months ago called Rescue Radar on how to recognize what you were saying before, which was the red flags and green lights. Can you explain, before we start getting into the nitty gritty, what does it mean by red flag and what does it mean by a green light?
Yes.
Alex. I did say Alex.
Red flags. Yes. Red flags are our things that we want to just be a bit mindful of when proceeding with working or adopting or getting your new forever pug, because these are some of the things we've learnt through experience and also just through our knowledge in the industry about how you can just get a bit more than you expected. Some of the red flags that I got was a Shar-Pei Staffy that had a few more behaviour problems when I was 21 that led me to being a dog trainer. And some of the green lights are the guiding lights of what we like to see in these practices and organisations, that they are pulling up their socks and doing the work in improving their practices. Neither red flags or green lights, deal breakers or deal makers. They're just really to guide your values. I'm really big on we're all learning and doing our best with the knowledge we have. So it's to guide your values and guide the values of the organizations that you're part of.
And it is really tough. So as Australia, I think statistically 80% of Australia have a pet of some sort. And out of that 80%, I think it's another 70% of that is actually a dog. They're at least one dog. So, and I assume the red flags and green lights would go with any other sort of pet rescue organisation, whether it's cats or, I'm trying to think off the top, horses. I've never heard of a bird rescue. Are there bird rescues?
There are bird rescues.
Wow.
Before I got my dog, I was fostering with a rabbit rescue.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in Alinda. And
No,
yes,
it's
there's
parent
all
rescue. Whoa. Yeah.
That's incredible. So, well,
people really care about their animals, and unfortunately, lots of people can't keep their animals for their expected life for reasons. So, yeah, they're a part of the system, unfortunately.
No, that is amazing. But it's great that anyone who's listening, we're obviously focusing on pugs, but they can actually use this no matter where they're going to find their forever perfect love.
Yeah, and they can also check out the webinar, which is still free and up for a year. So feel free to just check that out if you want a deeper dive on all those questions.
Definitely.
But we'll go through them today.
No. Well, we'll go through the highlights and the link will be in the show notes. So if anyone does actually want to go and look at them. So probably the first thing is red flags, green lights for the legal requirements. So I am toddling up to my local community funded pug rescue, looking for a little flat-nosed friend. What are the legal things that we need to be looking for, that we should be mindful of when we first get in contact with the rescue?
Jess, go.
Sorry, Jess, yes. I'm so used to having one person.
No, we're all I'm a serial interrupter and talker over her, so I'm trying really hard to not do that. So
beautifully.
We want to make sure that the organization's got a really thorough understanding of the legislation relevant to their state, that they've got policies and procedures that reflect that understanding and are accessible, hopefully, on their website. I mean, not every organization is going to have every piece of legal documentation publicly available, but, their basic, T's and C's and policies should be pretty transparent. Or if you request them, to find out, hey, what is your understanding of this, that, and the other? It shouldn't be a difficult question or something that is met with pushback from the organization. They should really welcome someone who's curious and asking as many questions as possible, because that should make them, as an adopter, a green flag, because they're trying to do as much as possible to learn as much as possible before they get the dog, or the pug, I should say, in this situation. So clear contracts in place for their staff, their volunteers, and their adopters. Nothing is muddy or grey. It's all very black and white and available. And their paperwork is regularly reviewed and updated. Because, again, looking at things, if they've got a policy that hasn't been updated since 2015, you probably want to question that a little bit.
And just having safety and insurance. Rescues and shelters, volunteer organizations and businesses at the end of the day, and they should be running as businesses, which means they have to keep their people and their animals safe and have insurance behind that.
Yeah, I think sometimes we get really fluffy and wishy-washy because we're like, oh, but they want to help animals. They're doing a good thing. And it's like, no, welfare matters, policies matter, legal
Yes.
requirements matter because it's what protects everybody, including the pug.
Absolutely. And it's if somebody wanted to do some research first, where would they go? Would they go to their local council? Would they go to their state government? Where's sort of the best way to do a little bit of pre-research before they start approaching, especially if they're a first-time pug parent?
I would say it's tricky because of the fact that we are in such, the animal industry needs such better regulation in Australia. So the first places that I would be going to would be like looking at the organizations themselves and going through their policies and information and then using that to kind of work backwards to be like, okay, what are the legislative requirements in my state? So in New South Wales, we can look through the New South Wales Companion Animal Act if we want to find out the real nitty gritty. We can be talking to places like the Animal Welfare League, the RSPCA, and seeing what they've got on their website and cross-referencing and cross-checking it there. But it is one of those difficult things that while we do have policies and regulations, ultimately the animal industry in Australia could do with a lot more. So that would be my answer for New South Wales. Alex, do you have anything to dive on with that for Victoria or just generally?
I would, yeah, if you are like, what is the code of practice for our local council? First of all, you've got your local council, which will have a local laws team that will look after the animal regulation for that area. So go there first. They usually have a page that links off to another page, which will go to the state one, and then that will link off to the other one. The state website is pretty good in Victoria. The AgVic website is pretty good to get a bit of a idea of like what their minimums are for these organizations. I'm sorry, I would have 1,000 tabs up because I was hyper-focusing on this research today, being like, give me the specifics. But it's a bit of a 1,000 tabs kind of journey. And yeah, talking with your network is a really good way to kind of get your head around it. And if something doesn't feel right, that's one of your like gut feelings, just red flag it and just, yeah, keep working and investigating in it.
Now, are these the same organisations where if something does come up when you're going through the adoption process where you go, oh, this is giving me the heebie-jeebies, are these the same places that you need to go to report that you've got concerns?
I did do research on this one because it is really, really hard to report concerns in unregulated industries. And you are kind of looking at reporting directly to the organization or like being like, hey, did you know? And like being open because as I said, we only know what we know. And hopefully the organization also is in a learning framework and they want to be like, oh yeah, of course. And like improve their stuff. If it just really doesn't sit with you and there's like a welfare issue, that's where you're hitting the big guns of your RSPCA, your Ag Victoria, your consumer affairs, because your animal, your pug, is unfortunately listed as a product. They are a
chattel
product that is owned. And so that's where your consumer affairs for your contract and your like the product that you get is healthy and alive. And this is what you signed and you said. And then your Australian Charities Not-for-Profits, ACNC, I'm so dyslexic, which is your
mouthful,
your not-for-profit registry. And so if you are looking and they're like, yeah, we're fully not-for-profit, check that little site out. They'll have all their financials there. What we're personally looking for is like that transparency and that willing to learn because no one can get everything right. And that's okay. Like, that's okay. Rescue. It's a very high-paced, high-stress world. Things get missed and that's okay. But yes, so like, first of all, checking in with them, checking with your mates, and then going up to those bigger guns if needed.
No, that's awesome. Thank you. That was the big, heavy one. We've now got that away. So right, the next one, and it was always funny when I saw this popping up in the webinar, money. What are the red flags around money when dealing with? I'll go back to you, Jess, because Alex was just. We'll try and break up the
Sorry, pass it off to you to finish it off for me.
No, you've done well.
So the money, just like we were saying with the policies and things, just being really transparent and up to date, reporting of their financials to the ACNC if that's not been updated regularly and it's not even on there at all. That's something that would be quite concerning. I also think personally, just like when you see certain organizations that are constantly asking for massive handouts and not giving real specifics about where that money is going, what it's being used for, how, when, and why is always a little bit confusing and concerning to me when I see it on social media, because people are so willing to give to those sorts of fundraising drives because they want to help the animals, but then there's no follow-up about what was done with that money, or it's very vague. I've even seen some places that, I mean, granted, they're saying it very openly, but they fundraise for their own pets, which is like deeply concerning to me personally. So yeah, and then also things too, like if they always seem to have lots of designer kittens or designer puppies, it's a bit makes you
Yeah.
wonder. Makes one
What's
wonder.
where they're coming from?
Yeah, so it's like it's been a while since I've been on the ground in rescue. It was between 2012 and 17, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that space of time. So at that stage, to see a pug in general rescue was unheard of.
Yeah.
You know, like you just didn't get brackies. Like the Frenchies and the pugs were much too popular, but then by merit of being popular, we
Oh,
now see
yes.
so many of them in
Loads.
rescue, such to a point that they have their own specific ones. But yeah, so those are some of the things that I'm looking towards. Like just your gut will usually go off for some of them, but transparency is one of the biggest, best things to look for the money.
Also, the urgency with money. So, like, you have to get that dog. You have to give me the money now. Pay, like, pay now, or else we're going to give it to the next best. We're going to give it to this person because they can pay. Yeah, cash. Only taking cash. Just like, again, it's a business, guys. I want that receipt. um, and money with pugs, especially, like, they will have often see those higher adoption fees. And
Yeah.
I was thinking about this before, and people can often question, like, hey, it's a rescue, I'm giving it a home. What's this behind that higher adoption fee? I think this is leading into your next question anyway regarding health. Is they like often our bracky breeds do have a lot of health issues, and people just are surrendering their animal due to those financial strains. So money is a big one with those higher adoption fees of like what vet care they are. I was just reading on one of the rescue sites saying that they have an average of $3,500 vet bills per dog, but the the adoption fee is around 1,900 or 1,000,
Yeah.
which makes sense. It's really expensive to look
Get them
after an
healthy.
animal, unfortunately, and
Yes.
especially if they have already been surrendered because they aren't healthy. We're talking about our breeders,
Mm.
our puppy farms, our puppy mills, our undesirable litters. We can, yeah, just have these health issues that they're very expensive very quickly. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's one of the questions that I see and hear around playgroup and all that sort of stuff all the time is why am I paying so much? And should I be asking what it is that it's covering? And my response always is, well, yes, if they're being transparent about the amount of work that's been done, especially the vet work, then you have to understand, to be honest, like it's sort of, I always work on the assumption that if it costs me $1,000 to acquire it, it's going to cost me 10 times that to sustain it. And that's not just pugs, that's cars, houses, everything that we buy that requires maintenance. The maintenance is always going to cost more than the actual acquisition price. And I mean, with rescues, we've always had rescues. So I've always worked under the assumption that there's a good chance that by the time I'm adopting a rescue, I've already got their full health history because the rescue's already done all the hard work. Whereas
Well,
if I
that's
get
one of
a
those green
puppy,
flags of those rescues is
Yeah.
that those health history they should be having those health histories and sharing them with you.
mm,
And yeah, some puppies don't have that full health history, or some breeders won't share those hip scores and stuff, which is what I'm looking for if I'm looking for a purebred dog. Sorry, I interrupted you.
no, you're quite all right.
Um,
Perfect.
I do like, yes, ask. Absolutely. You should ask where that money's going. You should ask what it's covering. You should ask for that health, like that health death or that behavior assessment or trainer they work with, like as much information as you can get. Personally, a green flag for me as a person who is adopting a dog out is you asking all these questions.
Yeah.
I think that there is no normal cost because, like, if you get this pug from a shelter, it may be $50. It may be. It may be $50. A shelter is different there. Like if they're just into the pound system, lost dog and into the pound system, it may be $200 or so.
Yeah.
And then if it's coming through a rescue program, it may be thousands of dollars. It really depends, and there's no money amount on our weird little living creatures that we want to share our lives with.
And that's actually a great point, because I've had other people have said to me, why is it costing so much to go through this particular pug specific rescue? Whereas I can go and get a dog from the RSPCA and it's only costing me a couple of $100. And the difference is the amount of effort, I think, for want of medical effort that's put in. As far as I'm aware, the RSPCA is only required to do a dental and DSEX and general health review. They don't do much more than that, whereas sort of community funded or rescues, volunteer rescues, tend to do everything. They make sure that the pug is as healthy as it possibly can be before it walks out the door.
I'm
And
also
having
taking a wild guess that and I'm just completely making a guess to this, but I would make the assumption that organizations like the RSPCA probably receive some type of funding that allows them to subsidize some of those costs compared to private
Yes.
shelters and rescues and things like that who are community funded, as you say.
Yeah,
Alex?
and I think that also is a thing to the environment. So when that difference between that rescue and that shelter is often those are in-home foster care rescues, and therefore they have so much more knowledge of that animal compared to your 9 to 5 shelter workers who, don't get me wrong, are amazing and doing the best with the resources they have. And you are getting kind of a more detailed picture of that animal in a environment that it will be in when you get home, which is really cool and really special. I personally love fostering moment. I love finding like the kind of dog that I like too. Like it's a great way to be like, I get this guy. He's really good, but he's just not my lifestyle, you know? Like, don't give me that kelpie. Like, I'll go crazy. I don't need that. Give me the senior pug. My dog's best friend is a pug, Jack Russell, and
Oh, wow.
he is a gem. Hilarious, great. Got all that terrier pug silliness and the terrier energy. She's so fun. But yeah, it's really a wonderful way of like kind of exploring what you like and what you don't like in a dog and how it works with your environment too.
No, it is
Side
great.
quest.
There is, and there are I think as someone wanting to adopt, you need to go in with your eyes wide open as to you get what your money pays for. Sort of, if you're only paying a couple of $100, it's like sort of a Kmart t-shirt versus like a Louis Vuitton t-shirt. Sort of, you get the quality for what. Even though I'm not saying that puppies from the RSPCA are like Kmart. Even though I heard somebody refer to one of the pug rescue pugs that we look after as a Timu pug. Because he had so many health issues that all needed to be dealt with. And I went, that person is awful. And I said, I hope you punch them. And I hope the puppy pedaled on their feet. It was
Yeah,
terrible.
poor little guy.
It's adorable. But we've kind of covered health, but what are some of the health sort of flags and lights that we need to be looking at, if especially if we've kind of got our heart set on one particular pug? Alex.
Go ahead. I was going to say go ahead, Jess, because I ranted, but
You're fine.
I can go ahead. So we're looking at those vet records being provided. Like the more information you get is the bigger picture of that $1,000 to $10,000 animal you're going to have over its lifetime to 5. Yeah. And there is no like guarantee. Health is a fluid thing. There is no guarantee.
Yep.
They can't claim that the animal is in perfect health because it is an animal. That's a flowing status. Some things unable to be seen. Jess and I work in behaviour, and we know that there is a strong link between pain and behaviour. And we are big advocates for digging into that kind of health aspect with our vet team and our medical team because something's not quite right and we're getting a bit stuck on our training journey, and we're like, we got to investigate that. So health is just a fluid thing. It changes. So having claims of perfect health is a bit of a red flag to me. Without any paperwork backing up those perfect health. Refusing to discuss the known medical issues. So like as you want them to be empowered to support this animal for its lifetime. So you're like, this is what the Cavalier's heart murmur is, for instance. This is what having a bracky breed is with heat, for instance. And like empowering them to know those health issues. I want to, disclosure is really important to me. Disclosure of the upfront costs of that medication, that monthly medication, that vet team. Anything else I'm missing, Jess?
Nothing that I can think that you're missing, but just that I was waiting to chime in and say, like, just also that, the vet records provided showing that they have maintained the basic healthcare of the dog over the time that the dog has been there, or, the pug. So, not just when the pug first arrived and got vet checked and then that was it, if it's an organization that has got long-termers, like making sure that they're receiving vaccinations annually, that their dental health is being looked after, and all those sorts of things that are just basic care. It's really, really important to make sure that it's being done over the course of the pug's time in care rather than just when they arrive.
No, that is a good point, actually, because it's even worming. I know for me, I know you can get like 3 monthly tablets. I have to do it every month because I'm sorry, 12 weeks, I've forgotten. It's see you later.
Yeah.
And they're not going to put their paw up and say, Mum, it's worming time again, even though Buster, my current foster, likes to wake me up at 6 o'clock because it's time for him to go to the toilet and he doesn't like going outside in the dark. So,
It's too dark.
It's too dark. So
My Robbie won't be in the rain because he's made of sugar.
Oh, absolutely. We do have that. And then we walk back inside and then I've got to do his eye drops. And otherwise he gets really cranky if I mix up. If I mix up the routine, oh my God, it is. He may not be able to see or hear too well, but I tell you what, nothing's wrong with his vocal cords.
I
He's
love
just
that.
to us. It's a good
What
thing
a
he's a cuddle pug, I
goof.
tell you.
What a goof.
But he is like whichever family ends up adopting him, they're going to love him once they get over the early morning wake ups, of course. We are technically early waker uppers in my house, but like the one day where I want to sleep in, nah. Nah. So he comes around my side of the bed and he sits right next to the bedside table and then he just woofs. And then he waits 60 seconds and then he woofs again. And then if I refuse to move, he then walks back around the other side of the bed and then he sits next to the bedside table of my partner. And then he does the same thing to my partner who sleeps like the dead. So then by that point in time, there's 4 woofs for me to go, oh, okay, I'll get out of bed.
He's trained you very well.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he's trained you very well. See, I've always slept through the woofing and I've never had it. My partner gets a scratch at the door and she'll go to the other side of the house, just like she can hear it and Slash is like, I need to go to wee now. Thank you.
But it's so fair. He'll take himself out to the toilet for the rest of for the next 24 hours. He'll take himself out, no problems. It's just morning toilet routine. Like I've even got to put his paws on the grass. That's his. But I will say this: like he's not the type of pug that will faff around for 10 minutes. Paws on the grass, he piddles straight away. So I'm like, there are some benefits to
Always.
It's good to train both ends of the leash.
Yes. Right. Well, sort of. So environment. This I found really interesting because it was actually something I hadn't really thought of. Who do we? Jess.
Yeah. So the environment is so critically important. I mean, obviously, different organizations have different levels of funding, different levels of staffing, all sorts of things like that. But it is so important that the environment is at least enriched as much as possible. It is clean. It is safe. The animals move thoughtfully into care or adoption rather than just to the first person that signs up for the form. Sorry, 1 second.
No.
Thank you. Can you lie down, please?
You need to pay attention to me, Mum.
Oh, and he's like, no, it's the coming on tradie time when all the loud, janky trucks go inside. And because I live in a rural-ish area, it's really dead silent.
Very noticeable.
Yeah. So moved thoughtfully on into care, not just to the first person that filled in the form, but to the place that's going to be the best home for that animal. And animals that are able to fulfill their species-specific needs, like just putting them in a run and leaving them. I understand that resources are what they are, but there's so much that can be done with low effort to provide enrichment to dogs. The place that I was working at as a kennel hand, any dogs that were not housed in a group yard so that they had a buddy that they got along with, we made sure that they had enrichment activities that were provided to them throughout the day. We called them singles, so dogs that were singles.
Yeah.
They were priority to go out on walks with volunteers because they didn't have a mate to hang out with in their yard because they were dog aggressive or whatever, some such thing or reason.
Yeah.
So making sure that they're doing everything they can to make that environment as stimulating as possible and understanding, the working uphill, it's never going to be like being in a home. But there is so much that can be done, low cost, low effort, that means the world to the dogs. And one of my favorite things that I've ever seen, and granted the, safety is a factor for depending on the rescue that's being done at, but a school reading program, I think it was in America, and they'd sit outside of the cage and the dogs would be in there doing whatever, and they're just there reading the book aloud. So the kids are getting to practice reading with it was almost like story dogs.
Incredible.
Story dogs, but done in the shelter rather than in a primary school.
Yeah.
Wholesome, you guys. So wholesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my little 2 cents on that.
Also, like, this isn't just in our shelter systems, this is in our foster care system too. It's those hoarding cases that you may see or not want to see if you get it's like going into that environment with that foster care, seeing how the dog lives in day-to-day life. Is there a million other animals there and they've listed the animal as friendly to all sorts of animals, but that animal is just in a state of chronic stress that can't show how it really feels and is very shut down. We are getting these animals and we're moving them in different spots. It takes a little while to get to know your new pug. And that stress holds, like, depending on how their environments and their learning history before and their health and all sorts of things, they're going to be stressed for a little bit. So you don't get to like fully see who that little creature is. And if they are just in a bunch of other dogs running around and cats and kids and everything, they might not be they might be listed as great with everything, but what we're actually seeing is a really stressed, shut down dog. And when they have moved into another space, they're showing us how they really feel. And that is quite scared and afraid. And that can end up in barking, lunging, biting kind of behaviors we don't want to see. And then they feel our adopters who did the right thing and wanted to do all the right things feel like they've been betrayed and lied to, but like the environment they were in were not helping them be their best selves and be less stressed.
And it's it was actually quite interesting. You guys referred to it as a 333. You had slightly different names. I used to refer it to as the puppy phase, the teenage phase, the adult phase. So whenever we got a new foster. But can you explain the 333 rule? Because I think it's as important to when they enter into a foster or an adoption area as to when they go out to their forever family.
Yeah,
Alex.
Jess, take it.
Oh, yes.
Jess, was it or Alex?
Yes, yeah, go for it.
So 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months is the 333 rule. And, some people get hung up on when it's used because they take it by letter of law, but obviously 3 days, 3 weeks, and 3 months are arbitrary measures to just try and give people the idea about roughly how long it could take for your dog or pug to fully settle into their new environment. So, maybe 3 days to decompress, maybe 3 weeks to start to feel a little bit familiar with the environment, and maybe 3 months to realize that this is actually their home now. The big thing that when I worked in rescue, the biggest source of dogs being returned within the first 48 hours was because they got loved too hard, too fast. They got taken directly
with it.
I know, and it's so hard. Like we're primates, we want to touch everything and get up in its face. Dogs don't do that. But also, taking your brand new rescue dog to the off-leash dog park within the first 24 hours is a terrible idea, team. So that's not a generalization. I'll say that as a definite. But so just it gives a guide for people to be able to know that this is a long process. You've probably been thinking about getting this dog for hopefully months or more to plan it, and you're just chomping at the bit to get stuck in and show them how much you love them, but you need to just do less, give them a little bit of time to breathe and settle in, and then start to get to know each other. Because it's like any relationship, you have to build that trust and bond before you can move forward.
And yeah, doing less is my big key takeaway.
Let them tell
really
you what they want.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, it's quite interesting. Buster is our 5th rescue that we've fostered. And prior to that, we've pug sat for friends, and sometimes it's been a couple of days. And of course, they've been a lot younger than our current pugs. And I forget what it's like having a 3-year-old pug in the house when I've got 10-year-olds, and damn, a lot of energy at that age. You just forget.
Yes.
And it's kind of one of those things, like every pug that we've had that we've pug sat for, they've known each other at playgroup. But it's not until they get into the house that you just sort of go, oh my God, I think I've made the biggest mistake of my life agreeing to puppy sit a pug that's, half the age of my pugs. And even and pugs have very expressive faces. There's nothing more golden than when you see your senior pug look at you like, get it away from me. Just get it away from me. I can't even hide under the couch because
What is it?
it's smaller than me and it follows me under there. And so we have learned the hard way, but it's quite interesting when you're talking about environment. Like, just because they're comfortable in your current environment doesn't necessarily mean they're automatically going to be comfortable in your environment.
Yeah. And that's a really good point. Like, it's also an adjustment for the existing pug in your household. It isn't just like we have to set it up because, like, it isn't just you bringing this dog home. This other dog didn't consent to that. They don't know that, like, that's happening. They haven't been thinking it for months. They're like, who is in my house and why? So, like, really slowing down and giving everyone lots of space and lots of their own activities and safety and breaks and rest is just like what Jess and I see all the time. We're like, okay, yes, this is great. We know you love them. We have to slow down.
Yes.
That just makes me think of one of my unpopular opinions that I don't like to share when people have said directly that they're doing this, but because no one has said this here and I'm not talking to a client, unless your elderly dog loves puppies, and when people get the puppy so the old dog can teach the puppy how to be, unless your elderly dog loves puppies and you know that because you know your dog better than me, oh my God, it's my biggest pet peeve.
Yeah.
Like, does your geriatric dog want to have a baby in their face for the end of their life? Maybe they do. I love to be wrong in this job. But probably not.
No, I agree. It was sort of like he was a beautiful pug. As I said, they knew each other from playgroup.
Oh, I'm not speaking to yourself.
No, but it's a prime example of the first time we agreed to puppy sit and he come home and I just went, oh my God, I forgot how much energy this pug has. And he was okay with Rosie because Rosie was a lot younger in those days. But Charles, he was just starting to get OCD, he was the one that used to pull the face of, get him out of it, get out. And so Charles would go on the couch and everybody else would be on the floor and we would be okay then. The ramp was no longer up but yeah, it was just, and for us, we just, after that particular incident, we just had to say to our friends, we're so sorry, just there's too much of a physical difference between your pug and Charles. And so we sort of, from then on, we only agreed to look after the more senior ones. But then I look at Kenji, who's 9, who runs after pugs half his age at playgroup. So
there it is.
Whenever we have someone coming over for a play date or to stay, like Rosie's happy because she'll just go and sleep on the bed because literally all Kenji wants to do is he will actually paw at them. Come on, run. And like the puppy's like,
that's cute.
Go away. Like, it's actually, but Kenji used to be paralyzed. So I think I do wonder in his little puggy brain, is this his way of being able to make up for that period of time where he didn't get to run?
Got to be a teenager yet.
Yes,
this is my time.
I need to make up. It's like the older woman who had children young and then decides that they're going to do their 20s in their 50s. Like, every time I see him do it, I just sort of think, oh, I should, because he has an unstable spine from the surgery, from where they took the cyst out. And I want to stop him because I worry that he'll do damage. It's permanent. But then I go, oh, I just can't. I can't do it anymore. It's just so happy.
There's a balance, isn't there? You can't wrap up in cotton wool, but you can't take risk. It's like you've got to find that. And also, too, just like on the note of puppies, people I think forget how hard puppies are, and I even did it. Like when Odin was a puppy, I sat down with one of my mentors for coffee. I think I'd only had Odin for a month, and she was like, "How's it all going?" And I was like, and I just burst into tears. Dog trainer puts a lot of pressure on oneself to raise that puppy, but It's
It's hard.
hard. And everyone forgets how hard it is when you have an untrained little bowling ball with teeth flying around the room. Like,
Yeah. And even when you get a rescue that like my 2 boys, Charles and Winston. So my first pug, Fat Dog, I rescued him through my
Fat
local
Dog.
vet. That was his nickname. His real name was
Incredible.
Lewis, but he only ever responded to Fat Dog.
I love that.
When I rescued him, he was like this little port barrel with 4 paws and a nose. Like he was
Call that a table.
so round. Like it was just, we got him all nice and svelte, but we were really lucky with him. But then we adopted Winston and Charles. They were a bonded pair, and they were 2, and they'd been in foster care, and they had some toilet training and behaviour training. But because they'd spent the first 18 months of their life in a courtyard, we figured out that they didn't actually like the dark, and I can kind of understand that. But it took me 6 months to toilet train them. And because my partner was still in the Navy, so he was at sea. So, like, I'm on the phone to him going, I hate you. I hate you. I am doing this by myself. I am waking up in the middle of the night to the sound of the
Really hard.
bedroom. And it was
Hard.
and I just, we ended up having to split up the toilet training. So of a nighttime, they went into a crate, and we just had toilet routine of morning and, first thing in bed and all that sort of stuff. And then during the daytime, I had to slowly teach them how to use the doggy doors and then trust. And then when I figured out, I wonder if it's the dark, I then had to go and get solar lamps and put them all through the backyard, and only then 3 days to night train them.
But
it was
love it when you crack the code like that. Where it
Oh,
wasn't me, it wasn't the training, it was this one random as hell variable from this
Yep.
like few dogs unknown background. And my rescue girl was scared of the dark too. We had neighbors that had to let us know because like it was sunset and we hadn't come home from work yet and it got dark, and they were like, oh, like it's been more than once that we've heard her like pacing and whining for like an extended period. We think she's scared of the dark. It's not happening during the day. And so we've left the lights on.
But-
Resolved. So got to love a little bit of environmental management to just fix that.
just sort them out. And that's actually a really good way to come back around to the things we learn about our puppies and as I said, they'd been in foster care, completely different environment, did not have this challenge come to us where there was just them 2. There weren't other pugs to follow and to take the lead from. And so, it was just, luckily I just went, okay, this is their thing. I didn't send them back because I just knew that this was something we had to deal with. But believe me, there were some times when I wanted to send them back
I
or
think it's also normal to
to
find
want
it
to.
hard. Yeah, and it's okay and it's normal and it sucks, but that's where like leaning on that community support and like working with those rescues and asking for help, it like should be really like seen as a good sign because like
Mm.
dogs are hard. They're living creatures, and I think we just undervalue the difficulty because people are like getting a puppy is fun and great.
Yeah.
The end.
The puppy blues,
That's where it
real
ends.
thing.
And, like, that means puppy, I mean, like, a dog in general. Your new pup, whatever kind of
Mm.
age it is, it's still a new puppy that's going into this world.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like
And, like
what have I done moment after getting a new being in your home, be it dog, cat, human, whatever it is. You're like, what have I done? Like,
things were so
And then you
chill, and now
realize
it's
what-
changed.
like,
My life is ending. As I said to my partner, I cannot believe you're at sea right now and you can't even answer the phone. I actually think that was a message I left on his mobile phone. After a couple of hours of waking up in the middle of the night to both of them toileting in the bedroom. I'll never forget it.
And toileting can be such a hard one because,
Oh.
like, they're only little. They're only little guys.
And how can that much fluid be in one little dog?
Oh,
Tiny.
Right, okay, back on track. Education. So some
Mhm.
red flags and green lights.
Let
do you want me to dive on
Get
this one, Alex?
Go,
get
Alex.
up my notes.
Yeah. Oh, let me get
Oh,
the
put you on the
notes.
spot.
Oh, there weren't. Hey, I'm looking on the Canva.
Education for our groups, our shelters and stuff. I'd be looking for educating your staff, like things like this podcast of like finding these people that are in the industry and best practices and educating yourself and their staff, their volunteers, the community about animal behavior and having a really good understanding about animal behavior. So that leans back into our dog that was good with everything, but is actually really shut down in the environment and suddenly has all these behavior problems. And when you see those, like when I saw those videos for this specific client that I saw, I was like, this dog is so shut down. This dog has got her tail tucked, her ears back, her eyes have got a whale eye, and just freaking out. And like when you see it, you can't unsee it. But like it's learning body language as an adopter, as if you're adopting, if you're fostering, if you're wanting to spend your life with animals, you have to learn their body language. And that's an ongoing process. It's like, yeah, they share their lives and you expect so much from them. We should do the same by reading them better as best as possible. Labels. So when we're looking at our labels, we're looking at what that actually saying. For instance, our dominance. We know that our dominance is a myth that is really sticky when we talk about dominance. Like with humans and dogs, like your dog isn't being dominant towards you. It's not a thing. We're going to ignore that. Like,
Trying to communicate.
what is the behavior that's happening and seeing? How can we help them? So looking at our dominant, our stubborn, our guilty looks are really big labels that we often see, and we go, can we question that? Can we dig into that a bit more as behavior consultants? But it just gives us a bit of an eye of how the rescue reads their dog too, because I promise you, your dog is not trying to give you a bad time. They're probably having a bad time. So
Communicating the only way they know how.
they're communicating with the tools they have, and we have to go back to that first one and get educated and read their body language better and help them be their best selves. So organizations working with your force-free trainers, your other animal professionals, your pug rescues going in and getting those specialists that know the medical things that are related to pugs. I was watching a webinar the other day where a pug's walk was like super wide while the sight hound's walk was really lean. And I was like, this must be so much energy just to move on this on this hip. And it's really like from a medical perspective, it makes no sense to have to move with your legs out that much because it's very expensive and it's energy consuming and kind of painful. And there's all this other risk. So like getting people that know their stuff and collaboration is a really big one for me. Any other red flags or green ones for education wise?
I think as well, like if they don't have a network of trainers that they refer to, like if you ask them, like, who do you guys work with for behavior? Do you have anyone come in and do like staff training or things like that? You know, if they just go, oh, no, not really. Like it's sort of like most rescue organizations that I'm familiar with have got at least a couple of trainers on their books, not on their pays, but like, you know, in a little list to be like, hey, if you need help, talk to this person in their adoption packs and things like that. So that's something if they just don't have anyone that they work with, that's kind of weird in my opinion. And also
making sure that they are force free and
I mean,
and positive reinforcement based professionals. So getting that reward the good stuff, avoid the bad stuff, and getting a bit of a knowledge behind you.
Yeah, you really want to be looking for trainers that are on the Pet Professional Guild of Australia's directory because they're professional members, or on the Association of Pet Dog Trainers Australia directory. People that are members of those sorts of organizations and bodies, and goodness me, there's another one, IMDT, is it, Alex? And they've got the red logo. They're really, really, really good, and they are a very similar wavelength. They're always at the conferences and whatnot. So organizations like that, those are the sorts of trainers that you want to be looking for because they've chosen to put themselves on these registers and to be put under the organization's guiding principles rather than just going it alone.
Like, doing whatevs.
Yeah.
They like to say.
Sorry to interrupt you then. There's the talk about dominance too. I was going to say that I love this really sticky little phrase for pet guardians because they do get really hung up on dominance because it sounds really, you know, like it sounds right, you know, and it's such an insidious thing. But dominance is dog to dog, as Alex said. It's not dog to person. And it is individual, it is situational, and it is resource-based. Until such time that your dog can get in the car and drive themselves to the shops and buy their own bag of bickies, your dog is not dominating you.
Yes.
Period. Like, we have
They have just trained you how to wake up at 6 a.m.
I know. So I had to place my paws on the ground, on the
Yeah.
grass, so I can go to the toilet. It's a good segue into behaviour. We've kind of littered through it, so we'll kind of round out what are sort of the red flags and green lights for behaviour that you should be looking at. Other than, I mean, we've spoken quite a bit about body language. What are the other things that you can be looking at if you're, especially like if you're looking at photos of them on Instagram or videos, or you go to an event and you see them there, what are the things that you can look at that kind of tell you more than what anything else would?
I think being able to read the information in the dog's profile is an art to be able to decipher what is meant by some of the phrases sometimes. I know that often I will see wording like, would prefer to be the only dog in the home. And that actually what that means is this hardcore dog aggressive.
Mm.
Like,
Without
so I would
saying
be
it.
reading through, if you have, a short list of dogs or a specific behavioral need. So, like, everyone should have deal breakers for things that they're not willing to live with, like, say separation anxiety or
Mhm.
major dog aggression. There might be things that someone goes, that's on my deal breaker list. If you're looking through the adoption profiles and you find your, top 5 dogs that you're looking at, ask that organization, hey, how do you know this? Like, did you do temperament testing? Have you just been observing the dogs in the yard? How long have you been observing them for? Under what circumstances? Does anybody take them off-site? If so, who are these people and what have they observed? If they can't or won't answer those questions or kind of get a bit cagey and just say, oh, yeah, they're really friendly, then, you probably want to consider that a little bit of a red flag. Having detailed information about the behavior and detailed temperament doesn't necessarily guarantee to you that this is what the dog is going to be like outside of the shelter and outside of these environments, because stress affects behavior so much. And we circle
Yes.
back to that 333, the
Mm.
need for them to decompress, and then you really get to know the dog themselves in the new environment. But at least giving it a red hot go, it's like, just because stress affects behavior doesn't mean that we do nothing and go, oh, I don't know, figure it out. Because
Yeah.
that's how dogs end up getting returned, or worse still, if they get dumped into a pound or just to Gumtree, heaven forbid.
Mm.
So it's really, really important to be cognizant of the fact that it's just a guide, and to have your own deal breakers and keep them firm to your heart, because it's really quite devastating if you do everything by due diligence, you bring the dog home and then find that they do have a big personality change and it does become a deal breaker. It's pretty terrible for everybody, the family and the dog. And I think, as we're saying, I think Alex was saying before, both ends of the lead matter. You don't need to quote unquote ruin your life to rescue a dog. It's okay if it doesn't
Yes.
work out. And a good organization, if you bring the dog back and say, look, I'm really sorry, but I can't live with this, they should tell you that's okay. And they should take the dog back. No
Mm.
questions. And they shouldn't blacklist you either.
Yes. I have to admit, one of the interesting things, one of our foster pugs from last year, Roxy, it was really clear on her adoption profile, she could not be around primary school age children.
Mm-hmm.
Roxy was a terror for stealing food. And you can imagine a young child walking around with a biscuit in their hand and then her coming up and going, that looks really yummy. And she did. Like, we had a friend whose toddler, the one time where we didn't get her to sit at the table, Roxy was like, woohoo, we're on for it. And and it was a hot chip. I don't know, pugs and hot chips, I swear.
Yes,
And so
pizza.
she stole half this chip. And although she didn't actually bite our friend's toddler, the toddler was pretty pissed that she
Yeah.
lost half of a chip.
Yeah.
As
But
you
the
would be.
number of applications that we received, where in the application they said, this is the only dog we want her, and they've got school-aged children. And we've had to go back and say, did you read the application? Did you read the
Yeah.
profile that said she cannot go to a household with young children? It's just, and people,
I totally get in falling in love with that profile.
oh, yeah.
But
a pretty
a
face.
green
Oh, yeah.
flag,
She was
a
pretty.
green flag is saying no
Mm.
to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like saying, no, this dog is not suitable for your environment or lifestyle. That is a green flag for a rescue to us.
Mm-hmm.
No, absolutely, because it's sort of like you're setting up the family and the pug to fail
Exactly.
from the
No one
get-go.
wants bites.
No.
And it also, like, some people, if they get burned at the stove when they try rescue, like, they think they've made a good choice, the place doesn't tell them they're wrong, and then they bring the dog home, it goes terribly, they return it. Sometimes they don't try again. They might go to a pet store, and get a pet shop puppy, and God, what a terrible outcome. Like, because we wanna see more rescue dogs in homes and being successful and happy in homes, and we don't want people to have that bad experience where they go, "This sucks."
Yeah. Or even worse, they get a puppy and then the same thing goes wrong and then they dump the puppy too. So
Yeah.
it can happen both ways.
Mhm, mhm.
Now,
Absolutely.
interestingly, the other one that I had was training. So I don't think people really think about training as something that they should be looking at when they're looking to adopt and what organisation to go with. Alex, I think it's the handball's your turn.
I certainly didn't look at that when I got my dog.
No, I educated myself, but it's actually a really good
And there is
point.
a lot of very, again, sticky methods that use punishment and outdated advice because they are so, like, we are a culture based on punishment. So
Mm.
we would like those organizations are doing the best with the tools they have, but there are our spray the dog for barking, etc., is not going to help the dog succeed, and it's going to sometimes cause fallout, especially with what Jess and I work with is why we're trainers. Is
Yeah.
the fallout of this training, this poor training advice, is the reason that we are positive reinforcement trainers. We have done the harmful methods personally and seen the fallout of it personally to us and our dogs, and had entirely changed our lives to pursue positive reinforcement methodology because of the whole worldview it changed our lives and how much it helped our animals succeed. And we both had big dogs that bite.
Yeah.
We both had big dogs that bite. So we do stress training of like, make sure that you understand those training methods because the worst thing you can is a pug in a board and train where it's outside all the time and then thrown an e-collar on it and then zapped to do the right thing, quote
It's
unquote.
um,
Yes.
Which does happen all the time. And
Yeah.
what
all
you do,
the time.
you feel like you've got a really, really good dog, but it has lost all its method to say, no, I'm uncomfortable, except for I use my teeth. And then you've got a bite to the face for a toddler.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
Behaviour
training
suppression
methods do
is
matter
yes.
for your rescues. And we do really care about it. And we do really want our rescues to be like upping their skills in positive reinforcement training and working with other professionals. Also, setting good expectations is a green flag for us of the animal in the care. So that's your kid. Like, we can't rehome this dog to a
Mm.
school age child. It's just not safe. And like, safety is a big thing in that. Like, that is a green flag of we said, like, no, if we can't take you can't have this dog. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Mm.
And education, again, we're back on our education, our training, and our transparency. If they won't tell you what they do or how they did it, that's a red flag for us.
Yeah. And that behavior suppression, as you were saying, it's so insidious and so many if organizations are still running off of that, it's just so dangerous for the dogs, for the people. The dog that I rescued, granted, this wasn't the organization, it was the previous adopters. We feel that she had such heavy-handed punishment used on her. It suppressed all of her warning signals, and she was a 40-kilogram bull mastiff red cattle dog. And we did have bite incidents with her where she gave no warning signals, that she'd wait until someone was right up, and obviously we tried to keep people away from her, but it can be tricky at times. And she would wait until people got close enough and just boom! Like,
Yeah.
no snap, no growl, no lip curl, just slight stiffness and explosive.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
terrible what it can do to dogs and to people and to the outcomes of rescue, because I hate to use it as an example, but I can tell you that my Rottweiler came from a breeder because I wasn't ready to go down that again. I didn't want to have a Rottie that did that. So it's terrible. Like, look at that. Miss Rescue went to a breeder because of it. So even the best of us can get burned at the stove. And
Oh,
this
yeah.
dog was the reason I became a dog trainer, as Alex says. It was awful, but great. It's weird, like how your heart dog can ruin your life. Like,
So
I
what
have
we're saying is g look for these green flags so you don't become a dog trainer,
yeah,
is what we're
don't wanna
saying.
you don't need to become a dog trainer just because you rescued a dog.
Yeah. If you'd like to have a really great career in positive reinforcement dog training, just like dive in, get whatever dog you find.
You don't need to get a hot the dog to start.
Oh, absolutely. I have to look, and my listeners would know this. I grew up in a household. I grew up in Tasmania around farms, around hunting dogs.
Oh, wow.
So I grew up in an environment where dogs had a very specific job and a very specific home. They were treated very well, but at the end of the day, they were there to work. They weren't there to play or be a pet. And then I saw Milo and Otis and went, I'm going to have a pug when I grow up.
Babies.
And my entire family looked at me and said, "Oh, what? Like one
What
of
are you
those
getting that dog
squished up
for?"
face things. Why would you do that?" And I went,
Oh.
"Because I want a puppy that loves me and is loyal." And I've been very lucky. I've had all of those things. But I grew up in an environment where I wouldn't say it was always negative reinforcement, but it was very old-fashioned training. Very
Yeah.
old-fashioned training. And so when I got Fat Dog, who his previous
Killed me.
family treated him appallingly. He had stress fractures and
Oh.
sort of ear mites and bad eyes and teeth falling out, and he was red raw from scratching himself from because he had psoriasis and eczema from eating.
Kid.
He was allergic to red meat, so they fed him 10 dog food. So,
Wow.
all of it did everything that they shouldn't have done. And so he'd been dumped at the vet and told that he just needed to be put down because he was just too much work. And the vet convinced the family that he give me 24 hours to find someone. And I had actually gone to the only breeder that was around at the time because I naively thought that who would dump a pug? And so the breeder rang me and said, "Look, you're on a wait list for a puppy, but would you be willing to take a 7-year-old boy who's had a bit of a rough start to life and really just needs a loving home?" And I thought to myself, how bad is this dog? Like, for someone to dump him, how bad is he? And so I said, "Look, give me the vet number. I'll ring." Had a chat to the vet, and the vet said, "Look, there's really nothing wrong with him. He is behaviourally he was just scared of everything."
As you would be if you were that sore and grumpy and suppressed.
Absolutely. And so he come home and Fat Dog was my shadow for the next 7 years. He was only meant to last 3. The vet sort of guessed that he'd had such a bad life that that he probably wouldn't make it past 10, but we were really lucky he passed away of old age at 14. But when I got him, I'd read loads of books, and obviously I had all of this old training that obviously I'd observed throughout my childhood. And all I figured out very quickly was what I learnt growing up was not going to work with this pug. There was I just had to deal with the fact that he was always going to be half a foot away from me. He had to sleep. He didn't like sleeping on the bed. He had to sleep under the bed. There were all these little things, and there were moments where I used to think to myself, "Oh my God, what have I got myself in for?"
Oh, yeah.
Because I was in the Navy, and so I had to go to sea, and I'd gone to sea for 2 weeks, and he spent all day, every day for 14 days sleeping at the front door, waiting for me to come home. And the only time he left was to go to the toilet or be fed by my ex-husband. And sort of
Oh.
it definitely, after that experience, I went, I'm never having anything other than a rescue. Because I can't believe that there are pugs out there that have gone through this.
Yes.
But I learned the hard way. And there were a few times where I actually had to say to my dad, "Dad, you can't treat Fat Dog that way. That's just, he won't, he wouldn't lash out. He would cower. He would just run into the bedroom and cower." And so even my dad had to really relearn
I've got
his approach.
Greek dad. I just have chaotic Greek dad, and I've got a dog that doesn't like yelly, stompy, tradie men, and he's just a yelly, stompy, tradie man by default. Like, it's not his fault. And we have spent a lot of time of just being very gentle and slow because otherwise my dog would do the same, shut down, cower, tremble, and just be like, "It's okay." That early learning and stuff, the stuff that we can't even control, the stuff that is so out of our control really affects these animals. And that's okay. We just have to work with it. So, like, as opposed to suppressing those behaviors that are telling us something. So I'm a big one on, like, training is actually really important for our rescues and our shelters to pull up their socks about. And, like, afterwards, getting a dog, just being like getting some support from a trainer sooner rather than later and be like, "What am I doing? Tell me." if I got a puppy again, I would pay my friends to tell me what to do. It is overwhelming, guys.
Oh,
There's so much to do.
and I think the thing that I've always liked about getting a rescue as opposed to a puppy is that the rescues that I've adopted through or worked with, because the pug has been with a family for so
Yeah.
long and it's a pug family. So the information that you get is so helpful because it's all the nuance, which I don't think you get from like a pound where they're in a run or something because they just don't have the time to
It's just not the
commit.
information there.
Yes.
Yeah. That home-based family stuff, especially with our little pugs, is yeah, we're lucky that we're able to have that much information for the like, by foster caring. And also just, like, if you are interested in getting a pug, reaching out to these organizations and foster caring and going through that route to kind of work out what you like in these dogs and what one speaks to you and is definitely your fat dog after all that. Like, it just you just kind of, like, will learn by going through it a bit of what you like, and not every dog is for you, and that is okay. They are also individuals that have their needs.
Oh, absolutely. I learned when we adopted Winston and Charles. It took me about 6 months, and after obviously the toilet training, after all that had all sort of settled down. And you can't help yourself. I'm sure parents do this with their own children. Winston was black, Charles was fawn, Fat Dog was black. So if I ever saw Winston's personality was so different to Fat Dog's. But for the first 6 months, I kept looking at Winston going, "Why are you behaving like this?" And then I had to stop myself and say,
It's a
"He's
different dog.
not Fat Dog. He is
It's a
not.
different
He is a
dog.
completely different dog, completely different personality, and I need to stop comparing them."
And I think that happens when people adopt a new dog after their heart dog, their soul dog has passed away. When, like, they've got this dog at 14, and then you get another dog and they're the same breed,
Yep.
different guy. It's a different
Oh, yeah.
person. We gotta learn them. We gotta learn all about this pug too.
All over again.
Yeah, and that's good, and it can be frustrating, and, like, you can also mourn the dog that you wanted, but, like, just going in with openness and kindness is real big.
Mm.
And we were gonna talk about adoption and what to ask during adoption, and as we've just
Yes.
really rammed through, I think it's like, get as much information as possible, ask questions. If they don't wanna ask questions, steer clear.
Yeah.
And ask how you can get involved, how like, what if there's not the dog for you at that time, like, involve yourself in other ways so you can be that in their mind when that dog comes up. Um,
Mm.
my friend has worked with, like, a lot of, Pomeranian rescues, and when there was, like, this pom that came through, and it was, like, instantly theirs. It's like another foster care, CC, this one's CC, this one's this person, like, and that's awesome to be that kind of like, "No, we have the person for that," because that feels so good, and, like, they know what you need, and what you need will be like you're on their radar, which is
Mm.
what you wanna be doing.
Yes, the match made in
Um,
heaven,
yeah,
in puggy heaven. So, look,
huggy heaven.
thank you so much, ladies, Alex and Jess, for all of your insights. It's been absolutely spectacular. And God knows people are going to have more questions. You can guarantee it, as they should.
Please do.
So, how can they reach out to you? A, for questions, or B, possibly even some post adoption behaviour training? Alex, first.
I do a post-adoption behavior training online or a pre-adoption where we
Well,
kind of go through things of what you are looking for in your dog and your environment and what you want to learn before you get that puppy even in your house or that old senior grumpy dog. I love an old senior
yes.
grumpy dog. And you can find me on digdogtraining.com. In Instagram and Facebook, it's just under Dig Dog Training. I think I'm on all the other things, but those are the two that I actually update sometimes. But I'm heading on holiday, so digdogtraining.com. Send me an email, ask me questions, send me an email on, and I'll be around.
Awesome. And Jess?
Yeah, I run Howling Success Dog Training and Behavior with my business partner, Nathan. We both are available to do pre and post adoption consultations over Zoom. We run it as cheaply as we can. It's a 30-minute Zoom call and it's $100 because we want to try and make that information as accessible as possible, especially the post adoption stuff where in the early days, a lot of people are sort of like, oh, we're not sure if this is a problem yet, and understandably don't want to commit to a full private consultation, which is significantly more expensive. So this way it gives people the opportunity to kind of like phone a friend who knows,
Yes.
and get that information easily. So Howling Success Dog Training and Behavior on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. HowlingSuccessDogTraining.com is my website. I hope I said that right because my toddler is awake now. And you can
Perfect timing, re
Done
the
really
toddler
well,
too. We did
absolutely.
really good. We had toddler alarm on.
I know, right?
Beautiful. Well, all that information will be in the show notes, so it'll be all linked, nice and easy. Thank you so much for your time today, ladies. I really appreciate it, and I hope that we'll be able to work together again soon.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Well, that was awesome. Who thought taking a deep dive into spotting the red flags and green lights when looking for your forever pug love could be so much fun and be so informative as well? We hope this episode has given you the snorts, signs, and savvy you need to make the right adoption choices, from checking the legal must-haves to digging into a pug's health history to making sure they're being cared for in the right environment. Remember, adoption isn't just about bringing a pug home, it's about starting a lifetime of love and plenty of snores. If this episode taught you something new, or you know someone who is about to start their adoption journey, please share it and come and join us over in our Facebook group, the Pug Life Show PUGCAST. Plus, if you haven't already, please follow the PUGCAST so you don't miss out on the next episode. And while you're at it, leave us a review. It only takes a couple of seconds to give us a 5-star review, and it goes a long way to helping other pug parents find us. Rosie, Kenji, Buster, and I hope that you will join us again soon. But until then, have a pawsome week, and humans, be generous with the snackies.